Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Saturday morning at the Art Clinic Online. I am so happy to have Maremi and Adreozzi back with us. We checked in, and it was May of 23 when she first gave her presentation to us at the Art Clinic Online. She was one of Adreozzi's artists that she was showing, and Adderose is our host for that one. Mariam has given us a lot of great artists already, and I know this artist that she's hosting today, and I know this is going to be another fantastic artist. So you are all in for a treat. Um, but I encourage you to go take a look at Marimi and all of the artists that she's hosted already. Her video is posted on the webpage for the Art Clinic Online. And I am still in talks with my web designer on the best way to make the Art Clinic Online webpage happen. We were looking at web domain names, so that's kind of where we are currently. But anyway, I will pass the torch to Marimi, and she will introduce Jackie. Good morning.
Hi, thank you so much for that nice introduction. I love Art Clinic Online. I'm such a fan. This repository, this archive of DMV artists, time and place, it's just indispensable. So I'm a huge fan of it. And a huge fan of Jackie's work. So thank you so much, Jackie, for your time and sharing your work with us today. I'm actually not really sure where I met you, except that you are just like a fixture at all the events. So I'm sure our paths crossed at something, and then I got to know you a little bit better. And I'm thinking back to the McLean Project of the Art Show that you had, the Spring Solos last spring, where I went to listen to you talk. And I was fascinated by your work there. And I asked you a question about the medium and how your medium relates to the human audience and the connection. And it was just a fascinating sort of back and forth about that and technology and human interaction. And I thought I understood in my very limited way of understanding. But then with Art Watch, which you will talk about later, Art Watch 2.0, I was helping with that program that we did in the fall, the Gold is Gauche performance, part of the Fall of Freedom event. And I was in your house. We were doing some run-throughs and some preparation for that. And I saw your figurative work there. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's so much more to Jackie that I don't even understand here. And so I'm so anxious to see your train of thought. And you're one of those people that is brilliant. And I just am trying to put the crumbs and the pieces together so I can understand better. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll pass it on to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maremi, and thank you, Jordan. Maremi, that was a gorgeous introduction, and I hope I live up to it. So here goes. I'm just going to share my screen first. Hi, everybody. Just a little bit of background for me. I'm Irish, as you might gather. It seems I always get to do talks in March. And this was coincidental, but it wasn't for St. Patrick's Day. But it always seems I end up doing talks of this month. But anyway, as you can see, I'm Irish, and I came to the US when I was about, I think, 30 years old. By now, I think I've spent more in the US than anywhere else. So I was a computer scientist. I have a degree in computer science from Trinity College Dublin, and I was a programmer, in fact, you're not supposed to say you're a computer programmer anymore. It's a sign of ageism. I should say I was a software engineer. So, but anyway, I was a computer programmer, and in the transportation industry, specifically the airline industry, and I ended up moving around and had a job based in the south of France with a consortium of European airlines. And we were sent to Miami for training to buy the reservation system of what used to be formerly Eastern Airlines. So I was there for a year, sent back to France, but that's where I met my husband, and that's how I eventually ended up in the US. And how I ended up in this particular area was the type of programming that we did was called IBM Assembler. And it's a very, very archaic 1960s technology. It's still used today. The IRS, Marriott, and Amtrak used it. And that's why we picked this location, because if we got fed up working for one place, we could go to the other. So we started off in Marriott, ended up in Amtrak, and then both of us had completely career changes. While I was at Amtrak, I started going to the Corcoran College of Art and Design at night time, and that was my initiation into art. Eventually, work got in the way of my homework for the Corcoran. Great for 1 year, and I never went back, and I've been. So for my art practice, I would call myself a project-based artist, interdisciplinary. So what I mean by that is first from multimedia, I will use any type of media. I'm not wed to anything in particular. I paint, I will sculpt, I make costumes. I'll do anything as long as I think it's helping to communicate the project I'm working on to the best of my ability. It's project-based in the sense that I usually pick a project to work on maybe for a year, maybe more, and I will create a very large body of work around that and then move on. And then interdisciplinary in that it can be performance-based. I use music. I do installations. Again, it's whatever I think is, communicates best is what I will. So I'm going to start here with, it's not my earliest body of work, but this was an interesting one. It was a very, very large body of work where drawing meets painting. And actually most of these were done down in Glen Echo in the Yellow Barn. So I was doing other work at the time. I was doing a lot of digital work, and I wasn't getting any exhibitions, but I went to this class. It was Advanced Figurative Painting by Lyda Stiefel. Maybe some of you know her. And I was just going for fun to get out of the house, and I really created my best drawings in the class. Lyda didn't, I don't know if it's Lyda or Lyda, but Lyda, her method of teaching was she would set up a really good installation in the middle of the floor with the model, and then you start off with 1 second, 2 second, 3 second drawings, and then the afternoon you would do a drawing for like an hour and a half, and that's what you had. And she didn't really give much instruction. She just let you do your own thing, and then people would just walk around and give a critique. It. So it really allowed me to explore drawing for myself and what, develop my own voice, which I think was really wonderful. I don't know how many of these. I probably have hundreds of these drawings. I'm going to mention two of my favorite models, because I think models are really an important part of your, as your muse as an artist. So here, at least on my left, it's called The Red Shawl, is Marianne Tom. And some of you may know she was a long time, and maybe still is modeling in the area. And then the other one on the right is Strict in Stripes, and it's Elena. I can't remember Elena's family name, but she was like an amazing character. And what I loved about both of these models is that you could really, without knowing too much about them, you could like imagine stories in your head that help develop the painting. They were great characters, I thought. So, so I moved on from there. And then actually this started around the same time when I was drawing these paintings. Send me your last cigarette. Heavy smoker. I smoked for over 20 years, at least 20 a day. If I had a glass of wine in my hand, that could be even more. So I went these quits and then failing. So, I was very much influenced by the artist Joseph Beuys, if you know him. He was a German artist. or World War II, I can't remember. I'm going to say, no, it had to be World War II. And he was the Nazis and he was shot down. And a tribe found him in the mountains and they bathed him in fat and brought him back to health again. And all of his works is using art as transformation. And it had a really big influence on me. So I decided I would start a project called Send Me Your Last Cigarette, and I would get loads of people to send me their cigarettes as like their final act of having their last butt, and I would put it in a piece of artwork, and I would give up cigarettes too. And at the same time, Montgomery County had brought out the first creative brand. So I thought, oh, I'll get a grant too. This is so clever. So fortunately, or I actually started the Montgomery County because I didn't get the grant, and that would have been enough for me, like to get an excuse not to, to go back smoking again. But and I can't even remember now how it happened. But the Washington City paper heard of the project, and they wrote an article on it. So then I actually got stuck in it. I had to stick with the quit, and then so this very immense body of work. Progress that went on again for a number of years. So I made these, what I call them, like temples, because giving up cigarettes for me, it was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. It's probably the best thing I've ever done in my life. Also, it required faith, like just trying to get through one day to another day. And so I made all these kind of religious type temples, like this is your act of faith, stick with it thing. So this was for a girl, Erica, that sent me her last cigarette. And Jordan, I know you spent time in Japan, and I'm very influenced. Some of these were borrowed from Japanese temples. I absolutely love the aesthetic of Japanese work. So you can see the influence there. So and then these are some of the other ones I made. Again, like I use gauze. I use it actually every now and again. I pick it up because I see it as something. Again, it goes back to Joseph Beuys. It's the healing, wrapping something in gauze. So it was a wedding anniversary with my husband. We were sitting up in a nice restaurant up in Frederick one night, and there was a TV screen there. And the announcer came out with some statistics about how many minutes you lose per cigarette smoked. I thought, oh my God, that's a great project to make. So I decided I would make, burn a hole in scrolls for every cigarette that I had ever smoked. But then when I calculated, I would actually need a museum to like put all these scrolls. So I think I represented only 1 year, and it ends up being 11 scrolls. And all of these marks here that you see are all the minutes lost in my life for just 1 year of smoking. And then there was a human rights festival here in Silver Spring years ago. And I asked to be included in that because the idea being human rights is the amount of people even still that will die will be far greater than any of the world wars all combined together. I think I don't have the statistics now, but like just in China alone, the amount of people that smoke will surpass any of all the deaths that have happened before because of smoking. So I created this jail cell, and it was based off an old ad by Camel cigarettes, and where they had a guy climbing out of a jail cell with his packet of Camel cigarettes. And it was kind of like, the anti-establishment, you can't come up with rules to stop me from smoking. It's my right to smoke type of thing. So I created this. This was my first real installation, I think. It was a jail cell. It was collaged with all ads from women's magazines of women smoking. And then I had 2 videos. I had one with all the old jingles, say with the Marlboro Man, on his horse smoking, and it was the Flintstones used to have one as well. And then the other one was juxtaposed about, it was a movie star who died from lung cancer, and also somebody who I met through the American Lung Association whose mum died from cigarettes, and it was her trying to breathe, and it was quite awful, and two juxtaposed against each other. It was quite harrowing. Yeah, so yeah, that was a huge body of work, and I created anything in a number of years on that now. Moving on then, again, art as a mode of transformation. So by this stage, I had got diagnosed with pre-diabetes, and I decided, well, I need to get a handle on this. And so I decided I would give up sugar and create a body of work around this. So I created this candy store. This was an exhibition and installation again at Viz Arts in Rockville. So I created all these discs and kind of like what I call candy boxes or chocolate boxes. I went on a diet at the same time. So through the process of giving up the sugar, doing the artwork, I lost 20 pounds, reversed my diabetes, and had my art installation as well. So, and these are a close-up of some of the body, the works on the wall. These are all in caustic. And then this was a couple of years again. I haven't ordered the works chronologically. I've grouped them together like as they relate, because I often go back to things and repeat them or change them up. So this was Contemplating Candy too, and it was an exhibition out in Woodbridge. And this is an interactive piece. The other one was a little bit interactive, but this one was much more interactive. And I failed in my active transformation. I was supposed to give up sugar and lose weight as well, and it did not happen for this exhibition, unfortunately. But I created a candy store again, and I made these lollipops. And behind each one of these lollipops is a letter. And then so as people, so the audience consume the lollipop, and then as they take the lollipops away, it reveals these letters behind that reveal text about sugar and our relationship to sugar. So this is the installation. You see it all around the room. And then here's, some of the letters. And here are the audience consuming the lollipops. So interactivity with the audience is really like a very, or participation of the audience, like project as well, is really important to me. For me, that's the big payback in the project for me. It's engaging with the audience, listening to what they say, them bringing their own experiences to it is really meaningful to me. So moving on, again, interactive. So there was an exhibition, a call for entries at American University Museum for the Duchamp 100 birthday some years ago, and curated by Mark Cameron Boyd. So I reused the discs. My proposal was based on me reusing my own artwork and recontextualizing it, and also making a how would I call it? A joke of Damien Hirst's color spot paintings. So he made something like 130 of these spot paintings, and his idea was that it just allowed him to play with color. So my idea was, well, why don't we let the audience make their own painting and let them. So I think I made something like 1,300 of these. I made more of these discs. And then the audience could mix them around. And the title was a play on, I don't know if you remember, Woolworth's sweet baskets that used to go and you get your basket and pick all your different sweets out. And they had like the really inexpensive rows and the more expensive, better rows. So the title was, at least it used to be called Pick and Mix in Ireland and Woolworths. So one thing about interactive art is you never know what people are going to do. When I did the jail cell with the mannequins in it, children were climbing on top of it, And, it wasn't built for people to climb on it. And in this case, here in the museum, there was magnets at the back of these discs to hold them onto the substrate, and it made a wonderful sound of the magnets and the discs falling onto the floor and reverberated throughout the museum. So the kids had a great time with the game with that. So, and these were all encaustic, so they were quite delicate. So I freaked out. So I made a second version. So these are acrylic, they're a little bit easier. And then to try and get people to maybe respect the artwork a bit more, or to feel more immersed in the work. But I provided white gloves for people to wear. So it actually created a completely different response. And then, this is what do you call that, paint that, reacts to UV lights when UV lights around. Again, going back to, people interacting with your artwork, I always come with these ideas that, I have set ideas in my head, how people are going to react and how they're going to think. And generally, I'm completely wrong. They come with completely different my mind sometimes. So I just don't have the creativity. I create these dots and I create the ability for people to do things with them. But it always amazes me what they do with them. And I create some beautiful pieces of work. And in actual fact, I didn't get a photograph of this, of one of them, but apparently somebody called VisArts, and this was VisArts in Rockville, could they get engaged in front of the painting, and they had arranged the dots in a certain way, and this guy proposed to a girl there, which I thought was fabulous, but unfortunately I never got a photograph of that. This was another one this was in the Betty Kramer Gallery in Silver Spring in the Arts and Humanities Council. This one was acrylic, and again more robust. That acrylic can take a lot more than the paint can do. So these are the three. I put them up in different renditions now. I still will use them. I had this up as separate pieces of artwork that people could work with in Montgomery College there in the spring last year when I was artist in residence there. Feminism. And still is true. Well-behaved women seldom make history. And it was written by a historian, Laurel Thatcher Ulrich, in a magazine in 1976. And this had a huge influence on me. I had a significant birthday and had been looking back on my life and, critical of myself in many ways, like the person, that always likes to be liked and stuff like that. And so I created a body of work that matched for me this statement. So I created all these paintings of women. So I wanted them to stare out at the viewer. I wanted their bodies to be pretty much insignificant. And I wanted them to be unnerving. This one here on the right called Virginia, it was titled after the book The Hours. I don't know if any of you had read that. It had a huge influence on me. I'm not going to remember the movie, this one now. It was after, but again, it was a woman who reclaims her agency, basically. And these are more of them here. So I got very ill when I was, not because of these, I don't really know what caused the illness. I ended up with a very rare lung disease. So I was in hospital on oxygen for 10 days. And whether it was the encaustic, I had also around the time, I had, what do you call it? Sanded a painting, an acrylic painting. I think the second time I sanded, I didn't wear a mask. But we don't know. It's a very rare lung disease I got. It took a year to recover. So after that, then I didn't paint very much because, I'm afraid to get close to the paint just in case. Now, it could have been encaustic. Encaustic is extremely dangerous it's toxic if you overheat it. Um, I don't remember the timing when I made all those dots with the encaustic. Wasn't around that time or whatever, or was it the painting? I never, or I had been staying in a residency in a damp house. So, who knows, maybe it wasn't even related. But as a result of that, I just, I went to more clean types of artwork. So there's a big change in my artwork after this. But I still, I still want to get back to painting. Like every year I say, this is the year I'm going to do it, but so it's just the time never seems to happen. These are some of people I know. That was this was for an exhibition at the Washington Arts Club. So so I was recovering from my lung disease. This when I started this project, Vote for Pope, and it was a public participatory art project where I made all the papal garments, and women would dress as Pope, and I was really lucky that I'd been looking for a year to find something that would represent a throne. And then one day on Craigslist, I found this ad for a throne that had been used in a movie in Baltimore. So myself and my husband drove up straight away, and we got this amazing throne that you can see here on the left. So so I made all the garments, and this is actually in Catonsville, Maryland, I think, near Baltimore anyway. And so I had all these red shoes. At the time, it was the Pope. It was just after the Pope who what was his name? Well, anyway, but he liked to dress up a lot. So I was very influenced by him. He had all these like wonderful shoes, he had these wonderful capes and wonderful hats. So mine weren't as good as his outfits, but it got close. So I had this set up. This is in Hillier Art Place. And then I would have people, they would come, they would don on all the garments, and they would sit on the throne, and I would photograph them. And here are some of the photographs that I took, and then each person, would pick their papesse name. I did not discriminate against men as well. So we did have men included as well, but they had to take a female name. So, so I think that's probably around 2017, and it's going back now to identity. And again, so this is the drawings now really that I've been doing for the last few years. It allows me to be like, when I painted, I always was like, my nose would be up against the canvas. So now I pour paint, and so I'm standing, the painting is, or the paper is way below me. So this was a body of work I started on a residency in Ireland, and it also happened around the time, I think, when Trump was beginning to run for president or whatever, because I remember the conversations at the residency. And anyway, but it's me looking back. I have this conflict all the time. It's like, I'm Irish, so I could say I'm an Irish artist, but I've never shown work in Ireland. And so I feel this like disconnect, if you like. So I created all these body of works that are really about me, but using motifs that are used in Celtic culture. So here, this would be a loose indication of the, of the Celtic knots, of horned gods. We have a very rich mythological history. So we've wonderful stories, and I'll get back to those again because I'm going to revisit that again soon. These are some of the, the spiral is seen, constantly on the stonework in Ireland, specifically around Newgrange, which is like a UNESCO site. Here, these drawings here, I'm pointing at the screen. You can't see me pointing at the screen. So anyway, the spine, if you like, going down the center is Ogham script. So these are actually words, and these two these two scripts or words. One is sacred and the other one is scared. And it was done, because it was in the context of worrying about Trump becoming president, and also, being in Ireland, being immersed in my own background, like all the sacred, history and culture that we have. So I create loads of these bodies work where the spine or the backbone of the person is made of this Om script. Artwatch DC. So a friend of mine, Ellen Weiss, posted a picture, and I don't have it here, which is a pity. But anyway, she posted a picture on Facebook. It was just after the election in 2017 when Trump got elected, and she's posted a picture of a woman in Poland and saying, "I can't believe we're going through this shit," or something again, and it was about abortion rights. And I wrote to her and said, "Why don't we have a meeting?" And we invited a whole lot of friends to our house, at my house, and we had that was the start of Artwatch DC, and it was this loose collective of artists that came together to create various projects that we agreed to work on. And the biggest of those was Artwatch, that was conceived by Ellen. And we had that at Touchstone Gallery initially, I think, with 200 artists, and subsequently in Blackrock Centre for the Arts with 300 artists. And each one of these panels, you see, we made this house. It's called One House, and it was to celebrate diversity of the culture here in America, to celebrate all our diverse backgrounds, wherever country you came from, or if you're Indigenous, you're very rich Indigenous background here. And each one of these panels were 1 foot square, and the idea was that you honoured one of your ancestors. Sorry, I have a cold, so I have the sniffles. So that was a hugely successful project. And then this is my panel that I made from it. So my background, my husband is from Guyana in South America, from Georgetown. And both of us are citizens here, but obviously, we're back to back here with, showing like our discontent or certainly our disquiet about what was happening. And then this was another project. I came up with this project during COVID. It's called Art from the Heart, where we made 1,800 original pieces of artwork that we made to donate to the hospital workers. So I can't remember. I think it was 300 artists or more that we had who contributed to this project as well. And then there was a smaller group of us of Artwatch that did a lot of what we would call guerrilla artwork. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but you'll see one of them was about gun control. One of them here with the stones with the handout is it was in response to there was nooses hung around DC at a different time. So we made these what we call kindness rocks to give outside the Museum of African History and Culture. They're in the center with the workshop. We're making hats and banners for the Women's March. And then also we did one for the, I should keep an, oh, I never set my timer. My goodness, we're going to run into trouble. I'm going to have to go very quickly here. So anyway, we did a number here about, outside the White House, reading from Amy Siskin's book, and then for the Ukraine war as well, where we got people outside the White House to put on, the flower, garlands that represent the resistance in the Ukraine. And then this is our more recent one that we did, is Gold is Gauche. We dressed up as Marie Antoinettes and did a parade around the performance, really, around the mall. That was back in October as part of the Fall of Freedom event. And then as part of that too, we also made all these buttons with Golders Gauche on it, and that's Trump as Marie Antoinette, and it was an AI image that Gavin Newsom had sent out, and so we co-opted that and put it into the button. So we made 1,000 of these buttons and distributed them on the mall as we were walking around. And then our claim to fame is that we actually made Rachel Maddow's show, which was like a coup.
The Remove the Regime protest was big this weekend in Washington, D.C. These Marie Antoinettes in Washington thereafter were, I think, part of the Fall of Freedom artists protests all over the country this weekend as well. But you got to admit, they are magnificent in their own right, honestly. The presidency of Donald Trump, the remove.
Okay, so
Joyce, can you tell us what kind of stones are?
Oh, it were just messages with very nice messages. It was like a counteract, if you like, to the noose that's been found. So we just, we love, care, that kind of thing, just as, and they were received very, very well.
Thank you.
So, so around this time, I really got into a rut after I think, when Trump got into power. So ArtWatch obviously kept me very busy, and that distracted from a lot of my work. Also, I was doing curating for an Irish cultural organisation, Solus Nua, and that required a lot of creativity. So I think it sucked a lot out of me. But I couldn't, I have to find a project and work on that for a long time. And I really, really was getting stuck. And there were so many issues, like women's issues, there's immigration issues, there's gun issues. Like, what do you work on? So I created this body of work. So it's probably my first video, I think, real video that I created. So it's written it's computer-based work. It's written in the programming language processing, and it's my first music composition, because the music is generated, or the sound is generated by the program randomly. So, and my solution to not being able to select a specific project to work on was to talk in general about these projects. So in this one, I'm really talking about collective anxiety. So you'll see it's soothing, but also it's disturbing at the same time. And this actually goes on forever. It's like a universe creating, it destroys itself and it creates itself. And it's called a generative work. And it just repeats itself all the time. But this is like just a quick snippet. Whoops. Yeah. And I'm just going to finish it here, because I think I'm going to run out of time if I play everything. So, I went on residencies are really important. It seems like when I go on residencies is when I think I achieve nothing when I'm there, but when I come back, I think it's the seeds of a new project germinates on them, and I don't know, and I get really frustrated and say that was a waste of time, and then all of a sudden something happens, So this brought me to my current work, and I've been really working on the same project now for pretty much 5 years, I think. So somebody suggested I read this book, The Mushroom at the End of the World. And it's on the possibility of life in capitalist ruins. And It's about a Japanese mushroom that's highly prized, matusake, that's highly prized in Japan, and but doesn't grow there anymore because of the deforestation. So migrant workers who are here legally and have no daytime job forage for it here in Washington State, and it's purchased off them and flown back to Japan for and sold for huge amounts of money. But the book is much more involved than that. It's about, you know, the gig economy, an uncertain future, climate change, and embodies everything that that I think worries me today. So I wanted to find a way that I can talk about these things, but not. I did create an awful lot of works. I can show them here, videos about climate change. But you can depress people, and I think a lot of us are depressed about all bad news. So trying to find a different way of how to communicate with audiences. So through this book and another book, The Hidden Life of Trees, I discovered mycelium. Mycelium is the underground vegetative part of fungi that we don't see, but it interweaves everything around us. It exchanges. It connects with the trees and the plants, exchanging nutrients in exchange for sugars, and in a symbiotic relationship. And I thought that this is a beautiful metaphor of how we can talk about our own interactions with one another in terms of equality, how we can talk about the climate, that if we take care of, the planet around us, how we will benefit, and how it's all mutually beneficial if we're better and are better actors. So this is an installation again at Glen Echo in the Stone Tower Gallery. Lillian, who's on the call, made this video for me, and I'm eternally grateful for me because I'm terrible at documenting my work. So you'll see in this that it has these flowers. The flowers are grown and cast from growing mycelium at home and baking it. And then I embedded LED lights in them, and then single-use plastic bottles cut up. And then they're connected to via radio control and microcontrollers to a pulse sensor that people put their finger on, and it will light up this cyborg flower garden. And then there's fiber optic wire in there as well that represents the mycelium. Move on because of time. It's great having all these black screens. I don't know what's behind them. Okay, I'm just going to show a little bit of this one here. It's a computer generated artwork. Again, I used so what I did was I created a drawing, and then I photographed it and fed it in as input into a program in processing, and animated, if you liked, and then I made it audio reactive, putting it to music. So let's see if, oh no, it's the wrong one. That one. Oh, Okay, sorry. This is another one with fiber optic I did out in Rock Creek Park. Again, it's just the fiber optic wire representing what's hidden below the ground, representing mycelium. This was the one actually I was talking about. So this is a drawing I made. It's pen and ink, and then I fed it into a program I wrote, and this was the end result. And I'm gonna just show a snippet of this. And obviously, the music is by Tony Yan, not by me. It's a pianist that gave me permission to use his music. This again is another generative video. I was really captivated by, there's a new mode of burial. It's an eco burial where you can be buried with a shroud with mycelium in it, and then you feed the mycelium and it comes awake and it will consume you, and then you eventually become compost. So this was a generative video where I have a person, and you see them bit by bit being, the mycelium growing over them. This is I'm not going to show this. This was my solo show out in McLean Project for the Arts in March last year, and again a little bit different. Multiple videos, all audio reactive, and I made these pulse pods a little bit more where I made these soft sculptures that you can hug, and you put your finger on a pulse sensor, on the soft sculpture, and your heartbeat, you feel your own heartbeat. You see what this one is? I don't. Okay, I'm going to skip this one. I didn't realize until I made the slideshow that so many of my works are black and white or nearly black and white, but I can't tell what's on the video. Oh, here we go. I'll play this one. This is one of the first audio reactive one, and then this one is actually the video is reacting to my heartbeat. I was connected to a pulse sensor to the computer while the program was running. I'll skip on. And then, so this, I have a show closing tomorrow. I'm part of the sculpture invitational at the Athenaeum out in Alexandria. And this is my installation. It's pretty similar to the one in Glen Echo a few years ago. In the back, I have video in this one too, and the video is actually an algorithm. It's generative video again, based off an algorithm of Physarum, which is like slime mold growing there. So you have this, growth happening around in the room. So, and then I'm not going to show this. And yeah, okay. And then and then to wrap up, I have this year I was really lucky. I got awarded a 2026 Wherewithal research grant that's funded by the Andy Warhol Foundation. And again, so I'm circling back again. So I'll be exploring ways of how I can use um, um, DNA visualization and sonification with immersive art, and how I can reveal the ancestral knowledge of fungi. And I'll be revisiting or studying animism in Irish culture. Like we had this background as as pagans, and still are, we have animistic beliefs in Ireland that really that all things have agency, including the animals, the fields, the rivers. So I'm going to try. I think it's a tall task, but hopefully I'll get something out of it that I can marry this, the mythology of Ireland with stories of fungi, and then I've been collaborating with my niece, who's a mycologist, on gathering DNA and how I can marry all these together into some kind of like interesting um, uh, installation that inspires people to recognize the magic in the world, basically. So, and that is it.
That was incredible work and I knew I was going to be blown away by what you've been up to. So it's exciting to see everything. I noticed a lot of names we already had for our clinic online, Ellen and Akemi in particular. And I was actually wondering, like, does a lot of your artwork kind of stem from dialogue with other artists, or how do other artists kind of play into your work, or how you operate as a practicing artist?
I don't think anybody ever works in isolation. I mean, we all feed off each other. One idea leads to another. If it's not your idea, you might augment an idea. I wouldn't say that I don't think I'm influenced by anybody's. I try not actually to be directly influenced. I think my biggest influence is social issues, actually. That's where the spur for all my work and keeps me going, I think it comes
But
from.
really just like the kind of bouncing off ideas against other artists is more what I was getting to, rather than like direct theft or anything like that. But just like formulating an idea for something, does it help to have a sounding board of community behind it? Does that make sense?
Um, well, I think certainly when we were doing Art Watch, that most of those ideas were generated. Like maybe somebody, started the idea. Like I'll give an example as Gold Scout. I came up with the initial idea, but then, and then I ran it by my friend Erin Devine, and she took it to another level. And then Lillian was the next person involved with that. And then she took it to a completely different level. So um, yeah, certainly for Art Watch, all of these are you have like, somebody ignites the fire and then it grows, and then all of the other ones, like we're all always trying to come up with ideas, and maybe we're bouncing them all the time, and somebody say, nah, that doesn't work, but eventually we'll come up with something that works. But the bad ideas is just as good as the good ideas. You need the bad ideas to get to the good ideas. I think I'm still not answering your question in terms of like a primary influence on my artwork. I think somebody who's not local would influence me, and so I just took a class with him, um, like where I learned all that visualization. I'm always taking tutorials. I'm always learning new stuff. I mean, continuing there. I think that's as much as my art practice as anything else. Um, but there's a guy who's doing wonderful work in, I'm going to say in Germany, but I don't think he's in Germany. But anyways, online. And I took a class with him on DNA visualization. And he creates the most magnificent, organic, 3D black and white works. I'm so jealous of. I'd love to create that work, but I cannot copy him. So I have to find my own way. But definitely he would be a major inspiration on me right now. And in actual fact, I think I wouldn't have come up with that idea for the research grant without his work. So I think yes, you know I think there's a lot of people influencing me who are working in the ecological field as well.
I just think it's one of the things that grant or not grants, but residencies does is create is kind of creating that community of working hard. So I was thinking maybe that was also part of it as well. Like that maybe at the location you're kind of processing, experience processing how other artists are influenced. I don't know, maybe it just
No,
seemed like you were
well,
so embedded in a community that then maybe I was
I don't
influenced.
go on residencies anywhere but to Ireland. And because it allows me to be at home without being a tourist. I get to stay somewhere for 3 weeks and work. So it has that really, but I think being home really, really influences my work then and the ideas that come out of that. I can't say that it's just, I think it's standing on the soil, you know, uh, it does something.
And Jackie, this is amazing. This is Mariana. Amazing presentation because it's the flow between like you're being a computer expert and then all of a sudden finding your visual calling. And it's not just visual, it's auditory and scientific as well. So
Oh,
it's really mind blowing. But
oh,
when you're alone and not trying to do a project, what do you do?
Mariana, you broke up there for me, so I missed a lot of your question.
Oh, I apologize. What I just was wondering when you're alone with your thoughts, do you also sketch? Do you also doodle? Do you how do you nurture your artistic vein?
Oh, yikes. I'm always doing tutorials online, um, learning new
Like
stuff.
learning?
Yeah, that
You're
would
in a
be like I'm doing,
receptive mode.
yeah, like now I'm doing a class on data sonification of how you turn data into sound. Um,
Fantastic.
yeah, I don't think there's any week that I'm not learning something new. Um, yeah,
You're almost
actually,
like a translation artist.
right. Yeah. Well, I have. One thing I should mention that. So I actually, really hated computers when I was, and I did not want anything to do with them at all when I became an artist. And then with the WPA, I don't know if anybody remembers this.
What's
That
the WPA?
what was his name? Oh my God.
Washington Project for the Arts or
Some
something?
project for the arts. Yeah, they ran a workshop, and he just Alberto Gatan, along with Hack DC, they ran a workshop on how to use, I'm going to call modern computers, which because not like the archaic stuff I was doing, like with small, like microcontrollers and stuff. He ran a class on how to use this with processing language and how you could use it in your art. And I got fascinated, and I learned how to solder my own electronics from that, how to use processing language. And so he passed away, it just a couple of years ago. But without that class and without Alberto, I would not be doing what I'm doing now. You know, yeah. So and now I'm still not very good at programming, but even have a degree in it. But anyway, but because I'm doing it for something I'm interested in, I will sit around the clock and just keep at it, like work at it. And I do have to say, AI is actually a great help too. It does help speed up, things as well. But I don't create an AI, but I will use it to help me.
Ironically, computers brought you back to art.
I know
They brought you to
very
art.
interesting.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
wonderful.
It's well, but the first song I ever heard, like because we were very poor, but I remember the first time that my sister got a record player, and the song that they first played on it was called "All My Life Is Circles" by the Seekers. I don't know if you had that here, but I feel like that's my whole story in life. I'm just going around and I keep revisiting the same artwork. I keep revisiting the same countries. Everything just goes around and around.
That's wonderful because it spins out also and it
Yeah,
gets larger each time you reiterate. Good for you. Congratulations.
thank you.
Thank you.
I was just going to say thank you so much for sharing. I mean, some of it was very personal, so I really appreciate uh, all of your expertise and being so forthcoming with so much information. It was just really, that's what I love about these Art Clinic Online, is like you just get this deep dive. But I was also struck by how many sort of themes you work on that are sort of polar opposites, like home and away, or magic and science, self, community. Just a comment, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We have any other questions before we let our artists go and get back to work, I guess? I don't know what. Awesome stuff.
I
That's
just
good to
want
see
to
you.
say thank you, Jackie. It was lovely to see everything cohesively. I've seen all of it before, I think, but it was nice to see it all together. Also, I have an extra ticket for the Joan Danziger lecture today if anybody wants to go. So let me
Type your
know.
email into the chat, and some of you may jump on that.
Thanks very much, Jackie. I hadn't gotten to hear you talk before about your work, even though I've been seeing your work for years. It's really fun to see. And I think what struck me about your works is that they all seem to express kindness toward other people in the community and bringing people together. So I was really appreciative of what you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Alice. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for attending today's talk. We should be back. I'm trying to pull up my calendar really quick. I'm drawing a blank on who is in 2 weeks. Oh, Claudia Aziza Gibson Hunter is back with Amoja Burrows. Another fantastic Art Clinic Online in 2 weeks. So be sure to check our full calendar, I guess, which is up on the webpage as well. And then don't be afraid to go back and look at all of our past, almost 4 years. I think we're at 4 years already, Mariana. 4 years of artists of the DNB. So quite a lot of incredible presentations to go through. But thank you again, everyone, and have a great
Yeah,
weekend.
you can get inspired by watching the archives too. If you
Absolutely.
ever are missing inspiration or you're wondering, you can look through there and say, "Oh, that person I should contact." So
I'll tell you, like as a teacher, like whenever an intern or somebody's like, "Well, I'm interested in this," I'm like, "Oh, here's a video. Here's it's just the easiest. Be
right,
like, these are people in your backyard. You know, it's
right.
you can go talk to them. They're here." All right, thanks
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
Maremi
you.
and
Take care.
Jackie.
Thank you, Maremi. Thank
Wonderful.
you, Jackie. Good to see you guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.